Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea, I hope you're all good. So this video is brought to you in association with the guys from Walrus Audio. Hopefully you know who they are. They're a great company, they make wicked pedals. I've done plenty of demos of their stuff in the past, such as the ARP87 Delay, the Fathom Reverb, the Iron Horse, and even the Jupiter Fuzz. And today I'm really excited to show you guys a new product they've brought out, which is the Luminary V2, which is a quad octave generator. Hopefully you guys have seen or heard of the Luminary pedal, but they had a V1. It was really popular, and this is the sort of revised V2 version. So the general gist of it is that it produces octaves below and above the note you play. So you've obviously got -1, -2, and then +1, +2 octaves that you've got on independent controls along the top row. On the bottom you've got a dry wet, so you can control how much of your guitar you're hearing or how much of the effect you're hearing, which is a really cool effect because you can sort of put the wet all the way in and then just, for instance, have, say, octave -1 on full and have like a bass control. Or you can sort of get a blend of all the different octave controls and create very organ-like sounds. You've also got an attack knob, which essentially, the more you turn that up, the longer it takes the effect to start. So it's kind of like a sort of like a ramping effect, which is really useful if, say, you put the dry wet at, say, half or just over halfway. So you hit a chord and then you hear the effect sort of slide in nicely. I really like that effect. The envelope control is really cool, and it definitely makes this pedal unique because obviously it can control the sort of high-low pass of the effect, but on top of which it can work as like an auto wah, so it's more responsive. The harder you hit it dynamically, the more the envelope opens. So it's pretty cool because you can do lots of weird and wonderful effects with that. And then of course the flutter knob has been changed to a tremolo, and then of course it controls the speed the more you turn it up. So you can get some really interesting sounds out of this pedal. To be fair, like, I use octave a lot. I've always had the Electro Harmonix POG. But where this might be really useful for me personally is that it's giving me a sort of different perspective on octave. You can use it traditionally to reinforce your riffs, or you can use it as a completely separate style effect where it doesn't really sound like an octave, it sounds like an organ backing you, or sounds like a shimmer effect going on in the distance. So really impressed with it so far. This pedal also has a expression pedal out, a 1/4" jack TRS cable, which can control the pedal externally, which is mega handy. But on top of which, something really interesting is that there are 5 dip switches on the inside of this pedal, so you can actually change what the expression pedal controls. So I've got on my phone, I've got the notes of what they do. So the first dip switch controls -1 and +1 octave volume. The second switch controls the +1 octave volume. The third switch controls the attack, the fourth switch controls the flutter, and the fifth switch controls the dry and the wet. So any combination of these dip switches can be turned on, meaning that you can control multiple different parameters with the expression pedal, which is just really cool because it means the amount of functionality this pedal has is huge, but also it can be a really interesting tool for all sorts of weird, crazy guitar sounds that you can blend in as and when you want, which I think is just immense. There's also a preset switch which allows you to scroll between 3 presets indicated in red, green and blue, and it's really easy to set them because essentially what you can do is scroll to the color you want, then set the pedal how you want, press and hold, and it's saved to that color. So it's mega easy, and it just means you can access your presets for different songs quickly. It's also worth pointing out that there is a sort of 4th preset which is described as live mode. So if you're running your presets on any of the 3 colors, but you also want to add a 4th, essentially you turn off the preset switch and it recalls the settings where they are on the pedal. So for example, let's say you wanted a 4th preset, you dial in the tone you want, and then you go through your presets, but when you turn them off, it goes back to how they were dialed in, which means essentially a 4th preset. So with all that in mind, let's have a listen to how it sounds. I'm going to be using my Fender Strat, running into the Rev Generator 120 Mark II, and that's on a very mild crunch, and then on the ground I've got a Victory Amps Light Speed, and I'm also using a Walrus Audio Jupiter Fuzz, and then everything's being captured through the Universal Audio Aux box, which is supplying some nice delay and reverb, some really cool, interesting, sort of tapey, weird reverbs, and then on top of which I'm capturing it with my Universal Audio Apollo 8P. So let's check it out. So here's the guitar on its own. And what I'm going to do now is show you the effect of the Luminary without the attack, filter and flutter engaged. So you're just going to hear the octaves as they are with the dry and wet at equal parts. So here we go. So as you can hear, it's polyphonic, meaning you can hear every string I'm playing, which is mega handy, because if you now dial in just the effect and no dry signal, you can still play like a traditional guitar. And the tracking's really good. I just want to show you the thing that I would use it for outside of that, which would be straight up sort of octave sound. So let me dial it in. Adding a bit of Greer light speed to the mix. It's killer. I mean, it serves a purpose straight up as an octave pedal, but really it's way more than that. So we haven't even touched any of the unique controls yet. So what I'm going to do now is push up the amount of blend so you can hear the effect more predominantly, and then I'll show you what the attack knob does and the filter and flutter. So starting with the attack knob. If I turn this up to halfway, you'll notice the effect takes longer to come in. Which is really handy. Again, it's really moody and it can do a lot of swells and ambient sounds that I think are quite useful. What I'm going to do next is show you what the filter control does, and to do that the easiest way for me is to take out the dry signal so you can just hear the effect and what the filter does. So we've got the dry taken out. We'll put the attack back to 0 so you can hear the straight away, and this is what it sounds like pretty much. I've got my blend of my octaves differently, but this is just the filter off. Quite chimey. So if I roll in the filter halfway, you'll notice it'll be less chimey. All the way up. So now it's starting to really show you that envelope filter thing, and also it's worth pointing out that you've lost a lot of the lower you pick, you can barely hear the top octaves. But as soon as I pick hard, let's put a bit of guitar back in and put on a bit of drive. It's just it makes me want to do the funky thing a lot, but again, I keep stressing that it doesn't just do that, it does way more. Anyway, let's move on to the flutter control. So this is the Flutter Control. As I said, it's kind of like a tremolo, but when you start getting those organ sounds going, it's way more like a Leslie, which I'll show you in a minute. But this is the Flutter Control as it is. So it's a cool effect, and as I said, there's many uses for it, and of course you can control this with an expression pedal and speed up and slow down that rate. But now I'm going to dial in more of an organ sound so it sounds more like a Leslie. It's very cool. So I found kind of like an organ sound. I've dialed in the octaves, I've taken a lot of the dry signal out, and I've got the Flutter Control in where I think it sounds quite Leslie-ish. Again, doubled it with the light speed. I might add some Jupiter fuzz in there if I want to get things sounding a bit dramatic, but this is really cool sound. Lots of reverb and delay. As you can see in the GoPro, these are the settings. I mean, I think that sounds really dreamy, very mysterious, very un-guitar-like, and I think that testament to the sound of this pedal being very, very cool. So let's throw in a bit of fuzz and see if we can get some crazy sounds going. One last thing I want to do, because it's really fun, is I'm going to turn up the octave, turn down the other stuff, and show you how cool this is. So there you go. There's a look at the Luminary V2 from Walrus Audio. I think it's fair to say that with a bit of tone searching and tweaking and fiddling with the knobs and different controls, you can get some really inspiring tones. I would definitely use some of those sounds that I found on recording. I think it's fair to say that, you know, Walrus like to experiment a little bit. You know, it's not just a straight up octave pedal. You can do that if you want it to, but you can also get lots of weird and wonderful sounds. And I love messing around with pedals, and the cool thing is it's not that difficult to use. You can find stuff quite easily, and of course with the preset function you can recall those tones that you found, and you'll always have them saved into the pedal. And then with the added functionality, the expression pedal, it can give you some really useful functionality that in live situations can be very cool. So if you want to know more about this pedal, I'll put all the links in the description box below where you can find the pricing, as this video is coming out on the same day as the launch of the pedal. But of course it will be available in places like Anderton's, and I'm sure other retailers that stock Walrus will definitely have this pedal in stock. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you all very soon.